step down. Let's bring in our panel right now to talk about this and where this political debate will move from here, because you know it is going to get highly political. It is already. Let's just talk about it. Ari Rabin-Havt, host of The Agenda and former advisor to Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, at least for the next week or so. And also joining us right now, Javier Manjarres, managing editor of the Shark Tank. Welcome, gentlemen. Great to have you both with us.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
All right. Well, Javier, let's start with you. There has been criticism of President Obama going all the way back to the beginning of his administration when he had that incident where he talked about stupid police work involving Professor Henry Gates in an altercation with a police officer in Cambridge, Massachusetts. What do you think, as a Republican and somebody who's been critical of the president as well, the president needs to do, and perhaps Eric Holder needs to do at this point to calm things down?
Well, look, I agree with the PBA representative there in New York City. Blood is on a lot of people's head, including Holder and including President Obama. Look, they fueled a lot of this racial division over the past 6 years. Look, President Obama is already saying that he has said that he is going to instill some mandates or some guidelines for federal law enforcement. You know that's going to trickle down to local law enforcement. Look, but nothing can be done. I think the best thing for President Obama and people like Eric Holder can do is just shut their mouths and stay out of this.
Well, Ari, do you think that they should be quiet? Do you think they should say something? And what do you think about folks like Javier saying that these guys have blood on their hands?
Well, I'm disappointed Javier can't say the first person responsible is the basically person of pure evil who pulled the trigger. That should be the first person responsible, not political leaders, first of all. Second, look, I think he's the president, and I think he has a right to speak, and I think he should speak to these issues, just as I think the mayor of New York has a responsibility to speak for his citizens. And by the way, I apologize for background noise. I'm in National Airport right now, but this is an important conversation to have. I think it's leaders' responsibility to speak out in these moments.
Yeah, they should shut up when it comes to racial division, and that's all we've been hearing from President Obama, Eric Holder, and the likes of Reverend Al Sharpton.
Racial division because the right has sowed racial division at this president.
The right has, or the left has been politicizing this as a racial division issue?
One at a time,
guys. His entire career sowing racial division, from the Willie Horton ads to the ads he ran in New York City, trying to separate Mayor Dinkins, the Jewish community, and Rudy Giuliani, and put them all in a fight with each other. And now that man runs Fox News. So the idea that President Obama sows racial division is ridiculous.
Is Mayor de Blasio Republican or Democrat? I forgot.
I don't see what that has to do with
that. It just came to mind. Never mind.
Well, all right. We're going in the past. We want to focus now moving ahead and what needs to be done from this standpoint. Ari, obviously there's a lot of pressure right now on Mayor Bill de Blasio and some of the comments that he made prior to this. Some folks have said he should just be quiet. What do you say?
Well, I say he's the mayor of the city. He is ultimately responsible for the actions of that city's police force, just as, he is, the city's police commissioner works for him. So obviously he has a very clear role to play. The people of New York elected him, and law enforcement, by the way, procedure was one of the critical issues in that campaign that was the most publicly discussed. So obviously he has a place to speak here.
What does it say that the PBA is out against de Blasio? What good has he done for the police union?
Well, guys, we've got about 45 seconds, so Javier, we'll leave that question open until we come right back. And Ari, I do want to point out, we do appreciate you joining us. We know you're calling in a lot.
And I apologize for the background.
No, it's fine. This, as you mentioned, is a very important conversation. Ari, like a lot of folks right now, trying to travel for the holidays while severe weather is moving through parts of this country. So he's at the airport. But Javier Manjarres sticking around. Guys, we're going to out with Mayor Bill de Blasio in the wake of the assassinations of the two New York City cops. Also, what's going to happen with Cuba? That's another important conversation we have to have. Can't forget about that taking place as well. What does it mean for 2016? Ari Rabin-Havt and Javier Manjarres coming right back with me, John Bachman, right after this short commercial break. Welcome back to America's Forum. I'm John Bachman. Before we stepped aside, we were getting into a debate on which party, Republicans or Democrats, has done more to inflame the racial discussion here in this country. And joining us now to continue the conversation, Ari Rabin-Havt and Javier Manjarres. Ari Rabin-Havt, we wanted to... Javier threw out a kind of a rhetorical question there at the end, but guys, I wanted to wrap up this subject so we can move on and also talk about the change in Cuba policy, because that's a huge issue as well. But before we do that, guys, just real quickly, how do you think this would happen here? Obviously, things have changed now with the assassination of these two new police officers. How does it change the current Republican Party and their talking points on the way that they've hit the president and Eric Holder on the issue of race. Javi, go ahead.
Well, I mean, again, listen to who's espousing all this hatred. You're talking about black on white on white, black crime. Who is it but the Al Sharptons, the black community? A lot of these Democrats you see that are espousing that the riots should continue. What's happened in Ferguson? You have the president calling special investigations into the police, Holder, and these are all Democrats. I mean, I don't see Republicans going out there and pushing some black or some racial agenda.
All right, go ahead.
I mean, look, I think that the African American community is a significant part of the Republican Party, and therefore the concerns of the leaders of that community do get addressed by the Democratic Party. So, yes.
These are the same people that call every Republican racist.
Who are you mentioning specific? Who are you talking about?
Well, I mean, in general, a lot of talking about from the left refer to Republicans as just being plain out racist.
That does take place, but I want to leave this here right now because we got limited time, guys, to talk about Cuba. Right. Ari, I want to start with you. Now, this is not necessarily a partisan issue. There's been some bipartisan criticism of this, namely coming from Bob Menendez. But do you think this is actually something the president wants to see happen, or is this again him using something to blow up the conversation here and change the focus on something that may never come to fruition?
I think the White House has worked for a long time on this issue. I think it is on the other side who align more with the president. So it's an issue that's transpartisan. And look, I am one to believe that the way you confront people you don't like and the way you can do more to influence the people of those countries is to expose more of America to them, because I believe our culture is strong enough that it will overcome anything. So I am very happy with the president's proposals, and I think ultimately we've had a policy that's failed for decades, so it's time to try something new.
All right, well, Javi, we mentioned how this is kind of not really right down party lines, and there's a little debate going on between Senators Marco Rubio and Rand Paul. Let's listen to what Senator Rubio had to say about this little issue.
Rand Paul has, if he wants to align himself and become a supporter of the Obama foreign policy, particularly towards Cuba, that's his right. He has a right to do that. My interest here is singular, and that is freedom and democracy for the people of Cuba.
What do you think about this? You obviously have covered Marco Rubio's career very closely. Is he in somewhat of a dangerous position here on this particular issue?
No, as far as 2016, I don't think it's going to affect his campaign either way if he runs for president. This is a very local issue, believe it or not, in South Florida, in the Cuban community. Most of America, I think, for the most part, doesn't care about this particular Cuban issue. But as far as the fight between them two, look, Paul is trying just to get some of the attention that Rubio's been getting because he has 2016 presidential aspirations. But again, President Obama can't do anything here. He can talk all he wants, but there's a bill in place that's been codified that he can't even sign an executive order to overturn that bill. There's nothing that can be done. And look what Raul Castro just said over the weekend. He said that the deal he struck with Obama changes absolutely nothing that's going to happen on the Cuban island. So basically, everything's going to continue, all the atrocities, the human rights violations, and the murders. So what did Obama get out of this?
Well, he got a lot of criticism. He got some compliments as well. Ari Rabin-Havt, thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate you keeping your commitment, even though you're on the road, and safe travels,
I think he's on a charter flight to Cuba.
Oh, come on, Javier.
I wish.
A little warmer weather.
Be sunny.
Anyway, gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. We got to step aside. We are going to talk real quickly coming up when we come back about Marco Rubio and why he might find himself in a difficult position as this debate heats up about Cuba. Right after this.